Welcome back to Soul Sessions with Emma. I'm joined today by Siobhán Keogh, who has spent over 30 years supporting fertility and general health, weaving together her background in Western medicine and Chinese medicine with something even deeper, a profound trust in the body's wisdom. Siobhán's work is rooted in empowering people to self-heal, to reconnect and trust in their own intelligence. And before we speak about all things fertility and health, I really want to meet you, Siobhán, the woman behind this work, the journey that shaped you and the lessons that you gathered along the way. Siobhán, I'm really happy to have you here with me today.
Thanks so much, Emma. Really, thanks so much. I feel very privileged to be here with you. And, and I really hope my aim is, on this podcast with you, Emma, just to hope that I can inspire someone else or give someone else hope or, from my own journey, which has been quite deep. And, so thanks for giving me this opportunity, Emma. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah, we connected a while back, Siobhán. I saw some of your videos and I just felt really drawn to you, and I'd reached out to you, and I remember it was just so, yeah, it was so synchronicitous. You messaged me and you said, "Are you available to chat?" And
Mm.
I think we were on the phone for about 2 hours, weren't we?
We're on
And it
for
felt,
ages.
yeah,
Quick,
it
yeah.
felt like we knew each other already. It was just so amazing. And I also felt like in that moment when I spoke to you, it was like I needed to hear your voice. So I'm so delighted that I've been able to get you on this podcast, and I'm really excited to find out more about you.
Yeah, thanks, Emma.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's really great, as I said, to have this opportunity to talk to
Yeah.
you. And
Exactly.
yeah,
Yes. So before we do go into, more of the work that you do, I really want to find out more about, how you got to where you're at right now. So maybe tell us a little bit about your journey and, anything that you find that has shaped you into I suppose, the choice of the field that you got into today would be lovely to hear about.
yeah, thanks, Emma. Um, there's probably lots of different things that have been on my path to getting where I am now. Um, maybe just to share a little bit about my background. Grew up on a farm like
Yeah.
many Irish people, and one of five kids. And with the farm, I learned from a very early age to be out in nature and the seasons, and there was sheep having lambs, and I learned about
Yeah.
fertility through animals, and I learned about how a seed, grows into a crop, grows into potatoes or sugar beet, or there was all different
Mm.
crops, and the seasons and how we needed to get things right for growth. And yeah, so it became just part of my life growing up on the farm. And also as a child, I was always a very sensitive child. I was probably told I was too sensitive as a child, but I'm realizing now, as I got older, that my sensitivity, while it's often my challenge, it's also my big gift, of how I can sense and hear and understand people and situations. And it's something I very much bring into my work every day. Um, our family too, while it was a great family and a very loving family, often I think, and maybe it's typical with a lot of Irish families, that not enough expression of love.
Mhm.
Um, our family, looking back on it, it's probably a little bit in the patriarchal system. And I'm saying this because of the day that it is today, Friday the 13th. It made me reflect more on this. Um, Friday the 13th, was also known in ancient times before the patriarchal system as the day of the divine feminine, of the day of really remembering of how to connect to nature, that there's 13 moon cycles in the year. A woman has 13 menstrual cycles in the year, so it brought me to connect to, women and the power and who we were before the patriarchal system. And
Mm.
our family, my family, while, we're a great family and still very close, um, we're probably stuck a little bit in that patriarchal system. And, there was a lot about appearance and looking good and brushing things under the carpet. And there's four girls and one boy. And for the women, especially, maybe not feeling, not being normal to express ourselves. And so, yeah, and the legacy maybe of one boy in the family keeping everything going with the farm. So looking back on it, it all probably shaped me, the sensitive child in that family background and the patriarchal within me. I'm more aware of it, letting that go, and how buildings and structure and things like that don't matter. It's all about connecting more to the nature of who we are and really connecting to what's important in life, what is connected to love, really, So that's been part of my early journey that has stayed with me. And then fast forwarding to when, went through the school system. Um, Also, there was times in my life, which is probably relevant to mention too, where I felt quite alone. Feeling, first of all, maybe a little bit different in the family, and there was a time when I was a baby and I needed to be hospitalized. My mother was told she wasn't allowed to visit me because I held on to her too tight as a baby. And and there was another time I was sent away in a summer camp, that I didn't want to go to as a small child. And then I was sent to boarding school when I was 12. Again, I didn't particularly want to go, in times of feeling very alone. And even though this was challenging, this also made me look deeper. It probably made me grow up at a young age and made me very independent. And but this challenge, which I can talk about throughout the podcast, also, what I call isolated grief, feeling very alone, is what has been part of the foundation of my work. I'm realizing we can all feel that slightly different, slightly alone, walls around us. And it's been my journey on opening up. So that's why I'm really grateful to this podcast, being more open, being more vulnerable, letting the walls down and being more real, and so yeah, so that was part of my earlier years, Emma. I
Yeah,
hope I'm
wow.
not sharing too much.
No,
Yeah.
that sounds amazing. And yeah, it's so funny because that seems to be a thread that is true of a lot of my guests is we're told we're too sensitive or we're highly sensitive, and it's interesting, especially in an Irish context, especially, isn't it, that
Yeah.
feelings were not really allowed to be expressed. It's quite common,
Yeah,
actually, isn't
yeah,
it?
it is very common, and it's now actually a big part of my work where I'm realizing these suppressed feelings, are certainly linked on unexpressed feelings, and the feelings that are suppressed, I'm really understanding how they're causing illnesses and causing different symptoms in the body. The body intelligence wants us to feel
Absolutely.
these symptoms, want these symptoms
Mhm.
to be expressed. Yeah, you understand all this.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And we're definitely going to get onto that, Siobhán. I'm really excited to hear more about that. You've got such great insight into that. And then just looking back to those early years, obviously you went through the education system, and was it at that point that you decided you wanted to go into medicine or nursing at that stage of your young
Yeah.
life?
I think I was always curious about the body, how it works, body intelligence, the essence of who we are. And so, yeah, then I decided to get into nursing. Looking back on it, there probably wasn't really the right course for me. I couldn't find a course I could relate to. I was also thinking about being a social worker,
Mm.
and but I got into nursing, and I trained to be a general nurse up in James's Hospital up in Dublin, which was a great training. And so even though the nursing was great, I did feel we were looking at the symptoms and not the root cause.
Mhm.
And well, I didn't want to jump too much just from nursing at that stage. So then I went on to be a midwife. I chose to go to England with a couple of my good friends and went to Ascot over in England, just the way it worked out, and did my midwifery over there. And it was an excellent training. The hospital I trained in ended up being a low risk midwifery unit. So we were trained to be very autonomous midwives and to be honest, it was a very good training. Maybe a little bit different here from Ireland. And, I was suturing episiotomies, topping up epidurals,
Mhm.
doing everything with women and really encouraging women to give birth as naturally as possible. That was the focus. And it brought me onto a journey of recognizing the power of especially the female body and that it's in women to create a baby, to grow a
Mhm.
human life. And so it was a great education and obviously, being there in the labor ward helping women to have their babies and seeing life at its rawest and fullest
Yeah.
and nature at its best, was really, really my great privilege, to help
Yeah.
couples, the women and their partners, in the labor ward and supporting them afterwards with breastfeeding and all that. And, it really connected me more to the nature of the body and I loved it.
Yeah.
Um yeah, so then, yeah, I'd studied first, as I said, general nursing, then midwifery. Um, I loved it, and I also felt there must be more. There's a lot of time spent filling out notes, getting things right, temperature charts, a lot of paperwork,
Yeah.
and so yeah, that was back in '95. I qualified as a midwife, and then I decided to go traveling and to investigate more. I passionately curious is my drive, and I was always curious to understand more and understand deeper. And so I actually ended up traveling for 2 years, 23 months, partly as a holiday, but partly to look into what else is out there, to trigger the body to heal itself. And so that took me on a whole other journey then, Emma, yeah,
Wow.
at that
Well,
stage.
I'm quite intrigued, if I'm honest, because you did say you had, I think you said you'd been in Africa and a few other places. Did that
Yeah,
take you? Did you take you? Did your job take you there initially, or how did you end up in these different locations?
yeah. Well, I went with a good friend of mine. She was a nurse as well. And first we went to Indonesia and we ended up in this place doing meditation for 45 days.
Yeah.
And like I was about 25 at that time. So you can imagine at that age it was unusual.
Yeah. It's like
Most
your
people would
version of
get
Eat, Pray,
partying.
Love. Have you ever read that book? It was a
Oh,
movie with
yes, I
Julia
saw it
Roberts,
years ago.
and she went
Yeah.
off to Bali to find herself.
Yeah. Well, maybe there's a bit of finding myself too. I was in Solo. Was
Yeah.
called Bali. Bali was the party place in Solo,
Oh, right.
the meditation place. And so that was really interesting, and in this place, like I think it was a Hindu place, but there was no religious connotation from my
Mhm.
point of view. We were just doing the meditation. But there was sunrise meditation, water meditation. Um, we'd connect with the elements of the sun, the wind, the water, and we went deeper into helping to connect to the energy within us. And so that brought me deeper into there's more to us than this physical body, and what I had learned as a nurse, there's this energy to us that we can tap into. So that was an eye opener, and I remember actually meeting a couple, and one was from Northern Ireland, one was from England, and we associated with them because, with the link,
Yeah.
and one had been on really heavy drugs, and with this meditation, there was a lot of sweating and feeling unwell, and when that came through their system, they started to feel a lot better. So this was
Mm.
my it was kind of like an initiation into understanding, that our body holds on to toxins, emotions we haven't processed. They had gone through a lot of stuff, and instead of processing it, they had held it in and taken drugs. And so as they opened up and they were sweating and crying and releasing, then their body started to feel better. So this was a learning for me, of course. And but there was lots of learnings on that journey. Yeah, I ended up trying different healing modalities, and
Mm.
ended up trying shiatsu. When I was in Africa, we went just briefly to stay with these African healers, and it was real traditional healing. I remember this white guy from Zimbabwe. We got talking to him in this hostel we were staying in, and I, of course, was all interested in trying to see the real McCoy, the real, what really happens. So he, anyway, arranged for us to go out right in the middle of nowhere to these African healers. And, and that was a real experience.
Mm.
One of them, the second day that we were there, actually saw something in me, and during this healing ceremony, and he came to me and gave me this red and white belt, and he said, "This is the belt of the healer, and you need to protect yourself." Yeah, so I thought that was looking back on it, I thought that was really interesting.
Mm. So from that journey of traveling and then, looking into, I suppose, other types of ways of looking at other medicines, I don't know, would you call it?
Yeah,
There was like, was there a turning point then for you in your career maybe where you thought, I want to go a different path, or were you
yeah,
still staying with the Western medicine at
no,
that stage?
actually, that's a good question, Emma. Yeah, then when I
Mm.
was in Australia, um, I went to this acupuncturist and herbalist, and at the time too, I was experiencing a lot of menstrual issues, like severe, really bad pain with my period. The blood wasn't a healthy color. And I know this might sound unusual, because we don't talk enough openly
Yeah,
as
of
women
course.
about
Yeah.
this. And I think
Mm.
it's so important. It happens to every woman. We get
Yes, of
periods,
course.
often we just hold it in, and we hold ourselves back from talking about it. So
Mm.
I probably hadn't even spoken to my friends about my periods, or not really knowing what was normal. But
Yeah.
all I know is I was crucified with these period pains, like really bad. So I went to an acupuncturist and herbalist in Australia when I was in Perth, and I found this person excellent. The acupuncture and herbs really started to help me. So much so, I started reading about it, and I made a commitment then to study it, to study Chinese medicine. And it also brought me on a journey of realizing, these other medicines that I was investigating, and had really this privilege to learn from different healers and cultures. And I was thinking, how can we only think it's Western medicine? Like, Western medicine is so new, it's really only 100, maybe maximum 150 years old. And we're relying on, and it's very much run by the pharmaceutical companies. So this brought me
Mm.
onto a whole other journey of realizing there's this energy we can tap into, there's herbs we can use, we can go to facilitators that can help us move the energy. So this really opened my whole mind, and to witness and see it mainly within my own body. And so, yeah, so I came back from the 2 years traveling, and I started studying acupuncture. And that was very interesting. I don't know, Em, if you know much about Chinese medicine.
Yeah, I
I
know a little bit about it. Yeah, acupuncture, I've had that myself, and I would be interested in learning about herbs, and I do research it myself. But
Yeah.
in terms of Chinese medicine, for the average person who doesn't maybe know, what would you say? Is there an easy way to explain it? Is that their approach is to do
Yeah.
with herbs, or
Um,
how would you embody what Chinese medicine is?
yeah. Um, Good question. Chinese medicine is it's known to be the oldest medicine in the
Mm,
world. It's at least 4,000 years old, and some say 5,000 years old. So it's at least 4,000. And, they very much recognize we are nature and part of nature. I learned in depth of how emotions are linked with certain organs and how the whole body's interconnected,
mhm,
and we're part of nature. And with the herbs too, it was like connecting to the natural plants and to nature again, rather than the pharmaceutical drugs. The pharmaceutical drugs, can be made, of course, from the plants. And again, so it was this gradual journey of connecting to the energy in the body, then realizing we are that energy, how we can move that energy. So first I studied acupuncture, which was about connecting to the energy and helping someone to move that energy through certain points in the body. It was quite an intensive training. All my lecturers were Chinese, and the college was affiliated with the college over in China.
mm,
So after studying the acupuncture, I went with the group that I trained with, and we went over to China and worked in 3 hospitals over there. And so that was really interesting. And I learned there how Western and Chinese medicine can work well together.
mm,
And it is hard to do research in Chinese medicine because it's very individualized. So
mm,
people might think, oh, why don't they do more research? But it's very specific, very individualized, which
mm,
I really like about it. But for instance, say if someone in China, because this was my experience, had a stroke, for instance. So first they'd be admitted typically to the Western Medicine Hospital. They do the CAT scan of the brain, they do the bloods, monitor the blood pressure, do all that. And once everything had stabilized, typically within 24 to 48 hours, then they'd get the acupuncturist in and, they'd put needles in the arm, in the leg, in even, I attended lectures out there, even how to stimulate the brain, as odd as it sounds.
mm,
So say, for instance, if someone had left-sided weakness, typically then it would be, the bleed or the trauma would have happened in the right side of the brain. So we learned how to just tiny little needles stimulate maybe the motor, the balance, the sensory area
mm.
of the brain, just slightly stimulated, and even maybe push a machine on. And these results were incredible, of
Yeah,
how, and push machine onto the arm, onto the leg. You could see the arm moving, the leg moving,
yeah,
um, with this electro acupuncture, so the body
mm,
was supported, to get stimulated straight away. And
mm,
the acupuncture points are ideally situated between tendons, ligaments, nerves, blood vessels, so, you're getting right into where the body needed it. And,
mm,
and people got great results from that.
mm.
And so this was a real eye opener for me. My
Wow.
sister's a
Yeah,
physiotherapist and sorry, Emma, yeah.
no, 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 I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was just wondering because my understanding when I had acupuncture myself, it's like the relieving of pressure almost as well, isn't it? The meridian points, is it?
Yeah, yeah, on the
Yeah,
meridian. So
yeah.
yeah, the points to relieve pressure, points to stimulate energy, some points to move energy. So there's all specific points. And
Mm,
so it was incredible. Also, when I was over there, I still had some residual period issues and just some other minor health issues. So I went to a herbalist over there, and that was a great experience. And so I got, told him all my particular symptoms. I got a prescription just for me. And
mm,
And I remember going down to the herb clinic and it was just this massive big, thousands of different herbs. And, and just say typically there might be, there's always usually minimum 6 herbs, maybe up to
Mm,
10 herbs in a prescription. So there's probably 8 to 10 herbs in my
mm,
prescription. And there was so many grams then of each herb. So it was a very specific formula for me. And I loved this, that I knew this was the formula for me. And it
yeah.
was to cover everything from the period issues to the cold in my system, to any stress I was feeling, to digestive issues. And I felt it was this wholesome treatment. And,
Oh,
they were really good quality herbs. Whereas in Western medicine, someone could be sent to one doctor for period issues, one for digestive issues, one for stress issues. In Chinese medicine, it all comes under the same umbrella, that you get a
yeah.
formula to address all symptoms at the same time, which made complete sense to me.
Yeah, that does make sense. And when you were going through that process of getting the herbs, did they ask you quite extensive questions?
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
really. For instance, and I've learned this for me, like that I could meet 10 women with period pain, and
Mm,
those 10 women are all going to be like under, they have different symptoms. One heat might, aggravate it, one heat might help it, and
mm,
so mine was cold. Mine was cold in the womb. So I needed very warming herbs, moving herbs. And yeah, so exactly, different prescriptions even for the same symptom like cold in
yeah.
no period pain.
Yeah.
And so I was so intrigued with all this, then I came back to Ireland and I studied Chinese herbs then for 2 whole years.
Wow.
And, yeah, and it was very intensive. Like, to be honest, it was much harder than studying nursing even, there was a lot to it. In a way, it was really like studying pharmacy, these really big books,
Yeah, of
learning
course.
herbs, all the everything to do with the herbs, all the
Mm,
qualities, or the warm or the cold or the moving, the pharmacology of the herbs. So yeah, so I'd studied then Chinese medicine for 5 years, and I became an acupuncturist and a herbalist, and I ran a clinic on that very, dare I say, successfully, whatever success means, but just that people were getting on very well. Even when I was studying for the 5 years, I was the main person bringing up all these people, with period issues, menstrual issues, health issues. And, because I thought it was great, they could get, a chance to meet this top, expert,
mm,
and that'll put them onto the right path. And we had to have case studies. So I was providing probably 95% of these case studies, in the class, just try and I could nearly have hired a bus going from Wexford up to
yeah.
Dublin, but it was a great experience of, so for the 5 years in the background, so when it came to, setting up my own clinic and that, I'd all this experience of really how to help people to help themselves as well.
Mm,
And so from 2001, I set up my own clinic, and yeah, and it was very booked up and I was doing acupuncture and herbs, and people did get on really, really well. And I'm not taking the credit for that. It was people, just they were, it showed me how people can respond to the energy moving in their body, to specific
yeah.
herbs, to creating more balance and more alignment within in their body. So I was just helping them relieve blocks in their body with the acupuncture, with the herbs, and probably bringing my, dare I call it, gift. I think we
Yeah,
need to name it as a gift, don't we, of our
of course.
sensitivity. I was able to sense, feel, hear, understand, probably that
Yeah.
healer in me, so bringing
Mm,
that into my work. So that
yeah.
was, yeah, a big,
Wow.
and I thought this is it. I've given up the nursing, the midwifery,
Yeah.
became the acupuncture. First, I thought, that's it. I'm the acupuncturist now. That's it. I'll be
Mm,
doing this like, and then I became the herbalist. I thought, well, that's definitely it now, the
yeah.
acupuncture. And, but then life took me on another big journey. But
Another
yeah,
journey. Wow.
Yeah,
So yeah, you did move on to another area as well, which I think seems to be an extremely relevant topic nowadays, especially. But going back to the beginning of your career and then, all the learning that you put into it, I'm wondering, as you came back to Ireland and then you were still in the system and you were doing all of this other stuff on the side, I guess, as it were, you must have felt quite frustrated having come from seeing how it was done in the Chinese medicine in terms of the diagnosis that people were given and the individual attention, and then going back to a system where it's very generalized.
yeah.
Did you have a lot of frustrations in that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, as it happened, I never ended up working as a nurse after 2001. I'd planned to
Mm,
set up doing acupuncture part-time and working as a nurse part-time, but the acupuncture just took off. Couldn't believe it. I really
mm,
felt it was meant to be. Honestly, Emma, I
yeah,
just took off. I even had the application to apply for nursing down Wexford, and I was just getting booked up, to be honest,
yeah,
quickly.
yeah.
Um, so I went with that, but yeah, was very frustrated. And once I was working in this way, I couldn't go back to the system. And,
Um,
now I look at the system with very different eyes. And, I know you're a teacher and we spoke a little
yeah.
bit about this, but any type of system with the education system, with the medical system,
Mm,
yeah, it helps me understand anything in a system, that there's one way and they're not looking at the alternative. And I'm understanding the Western medicine is the alternative. Like this
yeah.
is the truth, of helping the body to heal. And I was seeing also all
Mm,
these couples get pregnant because at the time it was a lot of fertility I was doing too, getting
mm,
pregnant against all odds. Also, maybe to mention, because it's only when we look back we can join dots.
yeah.
Um, I'd also worked in an IVF clinic. It was actually the first IVF clinic in Ireland, to my knowledge. I was the first in the Sims IVF clinic. And so I learned a lot about IVF at a very early age. Literally, it was when it started here in Ireland.
Mm,
So I learned a lot about it. And while I still very much support anyone going through IVF, of course, and I think it's great to have that might help, a couple or an individual to have a baby. Um, but overall, my thing is if people can conceive naturally, I do really understand, not only believe, but I understand how it's so much better for the constitutional health of the child because I've come to
yeah,
understand what's blocking fertility. So
of
because I understand
course.
blocking it, then instead of sometimes we play God and we try and create the
Mm,
baby from the IVF, that my thing is, helping people see and acknowledge the blocks and get to the root cause and working in this way then I saw these couples conceiving often against all odds, couples that were told they needed a donor egg, they definitely needed IVF, they had grade 4 endometriosis,
mm,
semen analysis was through the floor and it would never happen. Next thing, often just after 2, 3, 4 sessions, once the block was accessed and transformed,
mm,
they were getting pregnant, and well, that
yeah,
probably happened more so later with the techniques that I'm using now. But
yeah.
it's quicker even now. But even then, many years ago, I saw just with natural herbs, acupuncture, how people's symptoms were subsiding.
Yeah.
And also I was treating people with back pain, sciatica, menopause, all different health issues. Also, but
Mhm.
probably a bit more focus on fertility issues. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
very interesting.
yeah,
I've
yeah,
always
mm,
my work.
mm. Yeah, I was really struck by that, Siobhán, I have to say, when I looked on your page, and there were a lot of people giving testimonials and very emotional ones, actually. There was one
Yeah.
particular lady talking about the fact that she'd been trying, I think she tried IVF 4 times, and she then went to you. She was guided towards you and you helped her. And I think she ended up having 3 children in the end, twins, and another child because of
Yeah.
your guidance. And it just seemed to be, again, obviously a very life changing moment for her when she found you. And she'd been through a lot of heartache, as I'm sure you see that with so many couples.
Yeah.
So fertility seems to be, and I know you do treat more than that particular challenge, but in the world we're living in today, and I'm guessing with the health system as it is, there's, I think, there's an incentive for free IVF for some couples now. But I'm wondering, in terms of as we talked about, there is possibly some challenges with the system. You'd wonder why they wouldn't look into, the deeper rooted issues behind conceiving before they leap into that.
Yeah.
But I guess we all know possibly there's an element of capitalism involved there, isn't
Yeah.
there? But just
Yeah.
going into your oneness fertility program, Siobhán, I know might be forwarding a little bit here, but I know you've got this amazing program where I guess you focus on trusting the body's intelligence. Would you mind sharing, what the Oneness Fertility Program is with us and
Yeah.
when it started?
Okay. Maybe should I just share of how I came to access that
Oh,
information? It's okay.
amazing. Yes, please
Yeah,
do. Yes.
that's because then I went on don't know how many different journeys that I went on, but about maybe ten years ago now, I went on what I'd nearly call an awakening. Call it an
Mm,
spiritual awakening. I went on this deep awakening, and and I started to get this deep pain in my heart. This really anxious feeling. And now, in the midst of all this, I had met a man, and I had had three kids. And, because my main role in the midst of all this is always, my role as being a mother. And,
yeah.
and I have three great girls. So I want to make sure to mention them. And, so they all are incredible. Two teenagers and a 20-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
They're all girls. And, but their dad and I had split up about 10 years ago just for certain reasons. And,
Right.
he's a great guy and he's a great dad to the girls. And, but, I felt on my soul path and,
Mm,
things, yeah, without going into too much detail, but that was happening too in the background. And, but it was something separate from that also that triggered me into my own awakening. And I started to get this pain in my heart in the middle of the night. And the main way I could um, get rid of this pain, basically to transform the pain, was to write. And next thing I started writing in the middle of the night. I know it sounds unusual, but when I wrote in, I'd feel the pain, understand it, um, write into it, get curious, and I'd write and then I'd be able to fall back to sleep. So I got into this habit of writing, usually in the middle of the night. I felt, if I'm honest, it felt like channeling. This
mm,
information would come through me, and stuff that I mightn't have logically or consciously thought about. And I started writing and going deeper. And that practice has been going on now for about 10 years. I write definitely 99% of days. I write every day. And
wow.
so that was part of the deeper awakening.
Mm,
And in the middle of that, I met this healer, and she had been with a tribe out in Africa. And interestingly, she was given a red and white belt of the healer, the wounded healer.
oh, wow.
So the two of us met. I believe I was meant to meet her. And
Mm,
she gets you to she has this unique gift of putting your subconscious onto a graph. And this gift broke through her. And on my graph, she saw something in me. She said, Siobhán,
mm,
you've bigger work to do. There's something, without going into it all now, but she said she saw something really quite big in me. And at the time, I
mm,
just felt quite broken. And,
yeah.
um, and so she ended up supporting me one day every week for a few months. And she had lived and spent time in Africa with healers. And she brought me out into nature, taught me how to work with nature. ground with nature. And I know this sounds unusual, and part of me is a bit worried putting this on a podcast because some people mightn't understand this, but I did see profound sights, and I had profound experiences during that time out in nature
Mm.
as I felt very wounded and was going through this, breaking through something. I felt very much supported by the universe. You know, we can
Yeah.
call it universe, we can call it God, we can call it nature.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, but and it was
Mm.
great to have Claire was her name to support me at that time, and I'll be forever grateful.
Mm.
And so that was another part of my
Mm.
awakening. That was maybe, first I was writing, then I met Claire maybe 8 years ago. And then, so that really helped support me and to ground me. And then about 2 years after that, I got this sign from the universe. I won't go into it all now, but it was mainly my own deep intuition too, that I knew I was to buy this old building. Um, Sorry, I feel I'm talking a lot. This was another
No,
significant part
Siobhán, this
of
is the beauty of it. Like, this is what you're here for. And I think we always have to just be authentically ourselves, and your journey is your journey. And anybody who's listening, I think, especially to my podcast, at least I hope so, they understand, they're not thinking you're cracked or anything. And at the end of the day, you can only tell it from your point of
yeah,
view. And I know you've
yeah,
shared this with me privately, but honestly, it sounds amazing. So please go ahead and share it, because that's what you're
yeah.
here for.
Okay, thanks, Emma. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, no, thanks for giving me this time. Yeah, because I suppose there was a lot to it. So, yeah, about 6 years ago, I think it is now, I got this really, really strong intuitive sign. I was to buy this building
Mm.
in a place called Ferns. I don't know, do you know Ferns? It's in Wexford. It was known to be the ancient capital of Leinster, and I heard it was the capital of Ireland. So there's a lot of history to it.
Mm.
I wasn't thinking anything, only I was meant to buy this building. I was really clear I was meant to buy this building. I had even put a deposit on a house in Enniscorthy, my local town, but this sign was so clear, I opted out from the other deal, and I knew this building was for me. I didn't know why, but I knew I had to buy it. And for anyone listening to this, my journey has been follow your heart, follow your path, take that risk. And even if it doesn't make sense, if something feels right, go for it. So that's what I did. And the building was on sale 11 years. Um, and I bought it, thinking this was going to be great. I bought the building to set up as a health and wellness centre for the community. It had a big garden. I'd planned to do a big healing garden, and I had great plans for the building and to have lots of therapists there. And my heart was really in it for the greater good. And so about 3 weeks after I bought it, I was delighted with myself. And about 3 weeks after I bought it, there was a lot of, unfortunately, vandalism done to the building. And so that was the start of my, why is this happening? I thought this was all going to be great.
Mm.
And, and without going into the too heavy part of it, the building ended up stuck for about 5 years. I had massive loans, deep challenges, and I was still doing my writing. And every time that I wrote, I wanted to move the building. There was a lot, yeah, there was different things going on, but I couldn't get builders to do it. There was COVID, there was different things, and I still couldn't sell the building. And every time I wrote, I needed to move the building on. The answer I got was go in deeper, go in deeper. There was a deeper message with all this. Now, this building happens to be directly across from the Catholic Church in Ferns. And as I say, I wasn't thinking anything, but the Catholic Church, the Diocese of Ferns is linked with the child abuse cases in Ireland. It did, I believe, and does, have some dark energy with that. And it came to me, that something deeper, something lighter needed to break through me to balance this energy. And in the middle of all this, I met this other healer that I believe I was meant to meet. Basha. She's Polish. She's really nice. And her gift was, again, putting your subconscious onto a graph, which I really like, because I like if the answers come, from me or from the client themselves rather than from the outside source. So in my graph, what was coming up was me, the building, the womb, and next thing, this red shaped mark of Mary Magdalene came in. I'd never thought about Mary Magdalene. I'm not particularly religious, overly, I was raised Catholic, but with life and nature and the way my
Mhm.
journey was going, I wasn't really thinking that way at all. But this red shaped mark of Mary Magdalene kept coming into my graphs, all my graphs. And I knew there had to be something in this. And at the same time, I felt like this vibrational match, as I was seeing, so many clients that were adopted, or their mother or their granny or someone had been in the Magdalene laundries. I felt like this vibrational match with Mary Magdalene energy. And even someone at one stage contacted me from the UK linked with the Da Vinci Code. I was like, why is this all happening? So that brought me deeper into understand womb intelligence, call it the divine feminine or just the feminine energy. And it brought me into, and I started to see a lot of women of the woman in the family, the sensitive, strong woman that often didn't have a voice. And I could relate because I felt like that in my own family. And even though they were a great family, I felt that my family, and they still are my teachers. I love them. They're my teachers also. And I could see how I was able to help these women. Some women that very wise women felt misunderstood, very gifted, and that their gifts weren't being recognized or their voice wasn't being heard. And also, maybe just to mention a little bit in my past, I used to have a bad stammer. At one stage, I couldn't read the reports in nursing, like it was deeply traumatic. I couldn't answer the phone, couldn't read the reports. I nearly get
Wow.
emotional thinking about it. It was very, very tough.
Amazing. Wow.
But through Chinese medicine, I learned the heart links to the base of the tongue, and it came to me I needed to keep opening my heart. And as I kept opening my heart, my voice came back, and I believe it's in me to break patterns. And that also came with the journey with this building. Siobhán's the Irish for Joan, and there was a history of Joan and Johanna's in the family line on both sides, both my mother and father's side. That were more the quieter type, didn't have a voice, maybe a bit more suppressed. And I felt I was representing them in speaking up, having a voice, taking that move. And then this link with Mary Magdalene energy brought me onto a journey of the power of women. And I'm not this feminist or anything, but the power of the feminine energy. I just think it's so apt we're doing this
Yeah,
podcast today on Friday
absolutely,
the
isn't
13th. No, I really
it?
do. 13 has always been my lucky number.
Mhm.
Really, it has, yeah, like
Mhm.
in recent years, since especially the last 10 years. And if I had a breakthrough, I'd often see the numbers 13, 13. And so at the same time, one of my daughters came home from school with this journey with the building and the challenges and the link with Mary Magdalene. And she said, Mommy, did you know we're learning this in history in school? Mary Magdalene was beside Jesus in the famous picture, The Last Supper, but she was painted out to make look like a man. And, so I thought this was all very interesting. It's even been learned now, and now they have a Mary Magdalene feast day, but no one seems to know about this, and even in um, times when women weren't being acknowledged, it is recognized in the Bible. She was the one Jesus appeared to, and the Pope has called her the apostle of all apostles, but this doesn't seem to be known. And
Mhm.
so I felt whatever Jesus knew, she knew. Behind every good man is a good woman. And I
Mhm.
felt she didn't get that recognition. And that the Mary Magdalene laundries were named wrongly after her name. That having a baby and conceiving a baby, I really understand is the greatest miracle of life. I really understand this to be true. And these women, and dare I say, by the Catholic Church, there was shame and, um, you know, this woman feeling a scapegoat, feeling the shame, feeling they shamed the family for getting pregnant out of wedlock, and this all came true in this journey with the building. And as I say, the building is directly across from the Catholic Church. So I felt all this was breaking through me of really understanding, um, I personally feel, is it okay to say this in a podcast? But I
Yeah.
personally feel that Jesus and Mary Magdalene were partners, and
Mm.
I personally feel they had a baby called Sarah, and that story is true, and that this hidden secret is coming down as a vibration. Probably even more so with Irish women and linked with the Catholic Church of, that only the truth can set us free. And I was seeing all these women carrying, abuse in the family, sexual abuse,
Mm.
adoption, it all seemed to be linked with this energy. And to connect to the wisdom of the Mary Magdalene energy, I had to connect to her pain. During that time, I felt such devastating, isolated grief. The building was reflecting me, the pain, the grief, the walls, the coldness, and it was an incredible journey. And one day, probably even before that, there was a challenge. I don't know how much to go into, but maybe to mention this to Emma. There was one last challenge with the building. There was a particular man that I was challenged with when I was selling the building. And I said to whatever is out there, God, the universe, I said, when I have a breakthrough with this, I want to see a dolphin, a random thing, a dolphin. And one night I woke up in the middle of the night. And as I did, and I drew his energy. I was waking up every night, drawing energy, drawing vibration, understanding deeper. And I drew his energy and I filled it in the circle, and it was maybe something like 90% darkness. And I felt so happy filling it all in. And I was naming it, and it was control and dominance and, what we might call narcissistic, the control, the dominance, the arrogance. And I felt like this victim with this, that I felt he was blocking the sale of the building. And then I drew my energy and I filled myself 90% darkness. I was a victim, voice not heard, isolated grief, feeling the walls around me.
Mm.
And next thing I felt I had a breakthrough. I said, oh my God, we are carrying the same level of darkness. And I just underlined this, we are the same. It's the same. And I can't judge him. And I lay back and I knew this was a big that I can no longer judge anyone because we attract in
Mm.
the same level of darkness. We
Mm.
can give it different titles and different names, but it has to be the same to be a vibrational match.
Mm.
And from then on, I thought I'll never label anyone narcissistic or ego and anyway, when I underlined that and said, oh my God, we're the same level of darkness, I turned on my phone and at that second, a video of dolphins came up. And it was like this, that is it. That's your last lesson. So I was learning all about, what I mentioned with the intelligence of the womb and childbirth and nature, and then that we can't judge anyone. And after that, I went into the building and I touched the walls with gratitude and with like such deep gratitude. I knew I had learned so much from this building.
Mm.
And I went this one morning around 8:30, and I went there and I was nearly tears in my eyes, touching the wall, saying, thank you. Thank you for supporting me to access this information. It's been powerful. I was nearly, talking to the walls. I just felt
Yeah.
this deep connection. I was supported all this time. And I felt isolated grief. It was the opposite. I was supported to access this, dare I call it, wisdom. And that was my last time in the building. After that, the building sold. It was
Mm.
like it was profound. It was yeah, so I learned from that journey then a big part of my work is understanding how this vibration of pain is coming down and how our journey is to go into our darkness, and through the darkness we can find light. And
Yeah, yeah.
because I went through very, very dark days,
Yeah.
what some might call dark night of the soul, dark night of the ego. I believe it's dark night of the ego really than dark night of the
Yeah,
soul,
yeah,
because
yeah.
the soul is
Yeah.
pure. But that's what I felt I went through, to the depth of my soul. And
Yeah.
but through that I accessed this deep wisdom, and still very much learning every day. But I understand now much more about energy, vibration, what we come into the world carrying. We can't blame our parents. We can't blame the family. Like, I believe my family matched my vibration at conception, you know.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
wow,
and
there's so much in
kind of,
that, Siobhán. I mean, that's amazing. I'm just going to pick apart a few things that you said there because I'm interested to understand about the building. So, because it was right across from the Catholic Church, do you think that the building in some way was holding on to some of the pain of these victims? And was that part of it that you were needed to kind of feel that in order to let go of that pain almost there? Yeah, I'm just interested. And then when you said about waking up and feeling in, was it that you were physically drawing the darkness? Like what called you to kind of have that final release? I'm just trying to understand that maybe for
yeah,
our
that,
listeners, because that's interesting.
yeah. I was waking every night and feeling like, really, I believe I was feeling pain that maybe a lot of women had
Mm,
felt. I felt I was feeling the pain of many generations of
of
women
course.
that hadn't been felt, hadn't been heard. And as we've mentioned before, Emma, and I know you're the same,
Mm,
thinking that we need to feel the pain to heal the pain. And
mm,
I was realizing too, it wasn't the trauma in the family line, but the emotional response to the trauma that was being carried. And I felt so much of that. And I feel deeply, I'm sensitive anyway, but
mm,
it felt so deep. And it really brought me to a place of every client coming to me. I'm nearly like my friend. I just feel so much compassion for their pain,
mm,
for, the little bit of isolated grief that they feel too, that everyone feels, and we all feel separate, and we all
mm,
feel there's walls around us and no one gets us. And it really helped me as I learned to let my walls go. And I took responsibility too. I was stuck in the patriarchal too. I was trying to do these fancy walls, fancy windows, and that had to break through me too. And hands up, I was stuck in that too. So there was two
mm,
parts of it, mainly feeling the pain and what women went through, linked, I believe, with the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church had its darkness, the patriarchal had its darkness, but through the darkness and through, I went right. I didn't think I could go any deeper into the dark. And through that darkness came this bright light of awareness and wisdom and what's really happening, and understanding life and our bodies are always supporting us just to connect to love
mm.
and to be free. Um,
Yeah.
I don't
Wow.
know, is
So
that
that
helpful?
lesson almost, it was almost like this divine intervention because you possibly, as we spoke about earlier, and a lot of the signs in your life led to the fact that you are, I think we've spoken about this privately about you being maybe like a star seed. I know there are a few people who believe in that, and you're a chosen healer in many ways, and being a highly sensitive person can totally be an absolute gift, but it is obviously a very difficult thing. But through the ability to feel pain, you can understand it too. So therefore, you are the pathway, I suppose, for some people to get rid of it as well or get through it. So
Yeah,
I can understand that myself. But you were talking about the building, and then obviously that being your lesson, and then bringing you forward to, I suppose, understanding our body keeps the energy. We are what we attract, I suppose. That's what I would sum it up as. Would you agree with that?
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. one of my lines are life, as in what's happening in our life, relationships and everything in our life, even me with the building, life and our body intelligence matches our subconscious stress,
Mm,
usually ancestral, to show us where we are stuck and what needs transformation within us. So I'm
mm,
understanding, as you're saying, life is matching us. So it's up to us to transform the vibration. And lately, I'm trying to use the word even transform more than heal, because
mhm,
I believe we are light, we are pure, the essence of us. We don't need to heal that. It's just remembering who we are and transforming the dark that we carry. It's not who we are. I'm understanding, the more dark that we carry, the brighter the light a person has to be to carry that darkness in the family line. And that is, yeah, probably starseed energy, light worker energy.
mm,
Um, During my journey with the building, my family don't even know this, but it was actually just before the building, the Palladian star constellation used to come into my ensuite window. Um, yeah, and it was profound. The Palladian is the seven sisters. Again, I think this is such a coincidence. Is anything a coincidence that it's Friday the 13th?
yeah,
So I knew it was breaking through this feminine energy,
yeah,
and the starseed constellation comes, it's like a question mark. I don't know if you know it. And but all my writing is questions, answers, questions, answers. So I'd ask a question and then I'd answer it. I usually have trained myself to write with my left hand, my non-dominant hand.
mhm,
The heart channel comes from our heart to our fingertips. And it's like if someone gets a heart attack, they get a pain down their arm. So as I
mhm,
write, I try and answer, let God, the divine within me, answer, not from my head. So that's where on my right. And I would say 98% of my work is based on my writings now, which is interesting.
yeah,
That,
wow. This is just coming to me here, and I'm not quite sure
yeah,
if this is making sense, but we're obviously going to talk a little bit about how you help people with their fertility journey. But I'm just wondering if you've had all of these messages brought to you. And if we think about particularly in an Irish context, and if it's ancestral lineage, where we're carrying, sometimes we don't even realize, what we're carrying. We don't necessarily even apparently need to know what happened to our ancestral line, but it's about releasing that from the body. So I'm wondering, your role in all of this with the amount of women maybe and maybe men as well, but obviously there's other reasons, not all to do with this, having issues with fertility. It could be to do with, as I know you do work on this, the ancestral lineage
yeah,
not being released, and then you're now having that knowledge of understanding it and then helping women release it, and
yeah,
therefore being able to carry a soul into the world that we live
yeah.
in. I mean, does that make sense to you, what
That's
I'm
it. Yeah,
seeing?
that's exactly it, Emma. Yeah, that
Mm.
there's actually only two blocks I'm seeing with everyone with fertility. Well, I believe with every health issue, actually,
Mm,
that one is what I call, as you're saying, the ancestral subconscious stress. It's the vibration of stress that's coming in the DNA down the family line. Science calls it epigenetics, and it's what's being carried and what the nature of the body, call it God, the nature of the body, doesn't want the next generation to carry. So I understand how nature's blocking it. Um, the say, for instance, sorry, tell me if I'm giving you too much information now, but
no, this is really going to be very helpful to a lot of people because remember, there are so many women, as you know, really struggling in this area, and to understand this, I think, is such an eye opener for many people.
yeah, yeah, no, and it's all been an eye opener for me too. That
Yeah.
that the say, for instance, in Chinese medicine, as I say, the oldest medicine in the world,
Mm.
the mind is in the blood, and the blood makes the body fluid. So the mind is in the blood, and the blood makes the body fluid. So I took that sentence, and for about the last 10 years have been looking into it. What does that mean? So I understand through vibration, through energy, through nature, how if we're stuck and stressed in our mind, this is causing stuck and stressed body fluids, which is
Mm,
reflecting as inflammation and autoimmune. And
yeah.
inflammation and autoimmune is the core of all illness, dare I say, even
Mm,
cancer, serious illness.
mhm,
And with fertility, it's causing sticky egg white and sticky semen, blocking fertility. That
mm,
nature doesn't want the child to carry this stress, and so nature's intelligence is incredible. At the base of the body, some cultures call it the base chakra, fertility
mm,
will be blocked. And so if a couple does IVF and if it works, the child can be carrying a vibration that mightn't be as healthy as if they
mm,
conceive naturally, you know. And
yeah.
so my work is helping people see where the block is. And
Mm,
this might sound unusual too, but I'm not going to mess with it again. I'm just trying to be as authentic as I can.
mm,
But I'll, in the sessions with me, they're all online sessions now. Yeah, because my ego took a big hit because I believe I don't need to move the energy in someone with acupuncture or often not even with herbs. My work is now helping someone to connect back to nature and to trust the nature of their body and let nature heal them.
mm,
So I'll ask specific questions. I'll know what to ask. And when I get this deep shiver down my body, usually down my back, that means that's where the root cause is. That's the deeper truth. And once the root is unlocked, the body frees itself up and the inflammation eases. It's incredible. Honestly, it's incredible.
wow.
Um, and I believe this block that we all carry, the ancestral stress, is blocking us from the truth of who we truly are.
Mm,
And interestingly, I've never got this sensation for anyone going to college or doing a course, which blows my mind. I spent 11 years studying Western and Chinese medicine around fertility and general health and menopause, and all that time the answers were within me. The
mm,
answers are within us all. So my work is now helping and encouraging people to go in and to trust their body. And I will get this. I can't make it happen. It mightn't happen, but it generally does happen. I'll
mhm,
get this big shiver where the truth is, where the block is. And the more challenged I see someone, genuinely, the more gifted I see someone. And usually where the challenge is where the gift is. And and I've come to believe we're all here for a particular reason. I think you probably would be the same as me, Emma. Are you with this? That we're all here to help humanity or the planet in some way and to share, and be open and be vulnerable and to share. And from that place, as we, open our hearts to ourselves and how we've learned to heal, then we can share and help other people to heal with that and to release the blocks, to release the stress. And once we connect to our truth, then the body can self heal, self transform the symptoms from the inside out.
yeah.
I'm blown away daily by people's transformation. It's quite incredible.
Yeah.
Uh,
What
yeah,
strikes me, Siobhán, is that particularly when it comes to fertility journey, um, the outside world, I suppose, there's lots of changes over the last, decade or so. But, obviously women are having children a little bit later in life um, and obviously with the progression of science, there is lots of, I guess, as you would say, and I am very careful to talk about this too, because I understand it's a very sensitive subject for many people, but quote unquote messing with nature, I guess, that science has now introduced a lot of
yeah,
possibilities for our bodies that maybe nature never intended. And
yeah,
we're looking at, in the world we live in today, a lot of women having children, maybe through many factors, being left to having children later in life, maybe meeting a partner later in life, and some women going it alone as well. Do you
yeah,
get many people coming to you where they're a bit resistant? Or at that stage, I suppose, by the time they come to you, they've maybe tried IVF and now
Mm,
this is their last resort? Or like, how does it work in terms of the people that end up coming to
mm.
you on their fertility journey?
Yeah, sometimes I'm kind of surprised because the type of person you'd see coming to me isn't what you might think, that they tend to
Mm,
be quite sciencey people, quite even pharmacists, doctors,
mm,
different people that have maybe tried everything else, it hasn't worked. I see all types of people, like all types of people, but the main type of person I see coming to me is what I call the golden child. Now adult in the family carrying a lot of expectation, carrying, trying to keep it all going. The golden child, or what I call the empath golden child, the one that's sensitive and that also gives a lot, and a very nice person. You could be the empath golden child.
yeah.
The one who a really good heart and also wants to
Mm,
really help, and the energy sometimes can be going too much out, and they can
mm,
be pulling on their own reserve of energy. And so my work is helping. That's how I've come up with my whole oneness principle, helping people to feel more at one with themselves and to fill up their own cup first. It's like the energy of the sun or the moon or the star. The energy of the sun isn't scattered all over the whole sky. When it's contained and centered, it can have more of an impact. So
mm,
my work is helping people to connect to that, to have a healthy boundary, to be able to shine, let go of the stress they're carrying in the family line, connect more to their creative truth. I'm understanding we are like macro versions of our egg, and especially I see this with fertility and with menopause, and the man is like the macro version of his sperm. So if we're
mm,
stuck and blocked in our creative truth, the egg and sperm are blocked in its creative truth. I honestly understand
mm,
this to be true. It's incredible. Life, it's not bad luck. It's not a coincidence. It's not like, why is God doing this? Life is on our side to open us up to our creative truth, to try and
yeah.
shine from our authenticity, our uniqueness, from our
Mm,
vulnerability, from our being as authentic and real as we can. And
yeah.
when we are like this, the body, the symptoms subside.
Yeah.
And this has even been my journey with fertility, with
Mm,
having my 3 great girls naturally, and then with the menopause, I started to get symptoms, and then that was the time I was starting to work with Claire, the girl out in nature, and
mm,
we did this deep transformation. Overnight, the symptoms went. I'm not messing, it was incredible, and I've
mm,
never had a symptom since. So I personally don't I believe if any women are watching this that have the menopause, there is something blocked either in the ancestral line that hasn't been transformed, or
mm,
dare I say, maybe, you still have a chance to access your truth and shine from that. I see
yeah.
this is what I recognize the body's doing, and the egg is just looking for recognition to try
Mm,
and bring attention to it so that you can access what's the gift in your family line within you, even that's looking for recognition to shine through. The
yeah.
body is always on your side. Try and I'm starting
Mm,
to believe part of my main work is just helping people live their truth. It's why we're
of
on this planet,
course.
and to
Yeah.
let the stress go, and
Wow,
we can
that just really
encourage.
resonates with me there, Siobhán. I mean, honestly, I think again, I met you at the right time in my life as well. Going through this journey of just really being okay with being myself. And just as you're speaking there, we're talking not only about the beginning of life, but then, midlife and menopause and so on. Isn't it so crazy that there's so little being done or really discovered about women in some ways, and maybe this is an awakening of understanding of women that we're finding in the world today, because women are the divine feminine. And even looking back in Irish culture with Sheila na Gig, and Sheila na Gig was on the churches, you know what I mean? And
I was
and
just
women were
thinking
were
of
seen
Sheila
as
the
a
Great.
portal to the divine,
Yeah,
even
yeah.
dare I say that the formation of our genitals, the portal to the divine, and the man is entering into that portal. And women are extremely important to this world. They're a life force, but yet being dampened down for so long. I'm really going off on a tangent here, and I don't
Oh,
mean to,
no,
but
no,
it's coming to
no.
me, with the whole thing going on right now with the Epstein files. This is just a very much showing how the darkness of all of this abuse of women and abuse of power, it's all been a masculine energy, hasn't it? And
Yeah,
there's maybe now, as you said, this darkness that we see in the world, in some ways it's obviously awful, but we're hopefully lifting it up, and we're getting right into the nitty-gritty of our world today, and
exactly.
hopefully the feminine divine power. I remember reading somewhere recently, or listening to somebody talking about this. Unfortunately, it is our job as women to awaken, and then once we do that, the men will follow. And I think hopefully that's what's we are being called to do as these women.
Yeah,
I'm just feeling almost that's a sense of what's going on right now. Do you,
yeah,
do you,
yeah.
do you
No,
understand?
absolutely. Yeah. And just when you said Sheila na gig, I was honestly thinking of Sheila na gig. It came to me of, because I've been on kind of a bit of a connection with Sheila na gig, and it's
Yeah.
the and linked with the cervix, and the cervix is the doorway between the inner and outer world, and
Mm.
to be able to connect. My own work has gone actually more from womb intelligence into cervix
Mm.
intelligence. Um,
'Cause
and
yeah, like the shame as well that women are told, about their bodies, how little we know about our bodies. I know we've got a few women talking right now. You got the what's the lady, the pharmacist who's talking about the vulva, and I think even as women we're like, "Oh, I don't know anything about that." We're very private about those things, aren't
yeah,
we, as women?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
what a sad thing really, 'cause it's a part of life. It's natural. And it's been
exactly.
hidden. Yeah, wow.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. And that's what I recognized too, going back to the Mary Magdalene thing, that it was the shame hidden,
Mm,
and then instead of this divine union between the man and the woman, I think men in the world now too are disconnected. They don't know how to be, because as women sometimes, I don't know what you think of this, Emma, but sometimes women,
mm,
we ourselves have had a history of stepping into the ego masculine, of trying to control and do, and that, where does that leave the male energy then to balance that? So it's all, I think the feminine energy, the creative energy, needs to be embraced in men and women, of
yes.
being creative, being open, being, tapping
Mhm.
into the intuition, softening, and but we need both. And actually, lately, I've been wearing this necklace with the sun. I used to be quite into the moon,
Oh,
and
yeah.
uh, and now I realize, the moon is linked more with the wisdom, with the mystery, but it's not worth a damn unless the sun is more the masculine energy. We can shine out from that, and I think with
Mm,
all of us, we need the feminine and the masculine. And I
yeah.
learned that very much in Chinese medicine, the yin and the yang.
And the
That
yang.
it's
Mm,
it's embracing both, but in a healthy way. We can go into the ego and not
absolutely, yeah.
masculine. Yeah, and I agree.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's that the darkness is being shown to us now, and which is overall
Mm,
good. That, there's more darkness being revealed. That
mm.
unless we're aware, it's very hard to change it, isn't it?
Definitely, definitely. Gosh, there's so much there, isn't there? I know we could talk for hours, Siobhán, honestly. But
Right.
I mean, I had a lot of things I wanted to ask you around fertility, but I feel like you've answered the real root of, in areas of fertility. If there was someone listening and, they're struggling right now, and they're feeling hopeless, and they want to have a child, and they're wondering what to do next. I mean, I've got a few questions around that. I mean, age, for first of all, what is your belief around that? I mean, obviously there's a biological formation of the egg and so on, and the lifespan of it. But if you have a woman, maybe let's say in her mid 30s, and she's met someone and she wants to have a child, and she's kind of struggling right now, and she's feeling a bit hopeless. what would be your sort of main advice, maybe to women and men, because I know men are also part of this too, their energy and their sperm and so on. But what do you think should be the main thing that people would focus on?
The main thing I think people should focus on is focusing in. And when they feel the pain, actually feel the pain to heal the pain, go in. I use these methods where I get people to feel it, to interview it, to go in. I might tell you about a gentleman I met just 2 days ago with this, and to go in that your body has the answers and trust yourself. My words are love, trust, and truth. The other is fear, ego, pain. So to love yourself by trusting your body intelligence, live your truth, speak your truth, and be true to who you are. My advice is don't necessarily be running for all these testing and checking AMH and, maybe check your truths patent. That's just a basic test where they flush through. Um, Take a good supplement, but that's secondary. The main thing is ground yourself, keep the stress down. And when I say grounding, the vibe of expectation really drives infertility. This kind of, "Oh, do I need to do this? Have I done this? Have I done that?" It's like the farmer's daughter in me. It's like someone seeing a racehorse and it's a bit on edge, they'll know that's the racehorse that won't go into foal easily. So
Mm,
it's about grounding that energy down, go out into nature, do meditation, and follow your joy. Do what you love doing. If you thought as a child I was very musical or I like to draw or or I was interested in airplanes, or follow your joy. Do what you love doing. Like I'm realizing we're here to feel joy and
mm,
embrace joy and connect as a couple. A lot of couples are going to the clinics, doing their tests, but they're not actually keeping their hearts open. Yeah, you agree, Emma?
mm,
Yeah, sure. That's
yeah,
opening our hearts, isn't it, to each other, sitting with the
yeah,
meal together, having the fun, having the crack, and I'm not into sitting at home eating cardboard and being really healthy and ticking off boxes. It's going out, having fun, and
yeah,
let the man pick the date. And I have this thing that in nature, it's like the man has the penis, and I don't mean that to sound crude. The woman has the
yeah.
vagina. The man's work is more doing, and the woman needs to be the receiver. And so
Yes.
I say to couples, let men organize the date nights and the woman
Mm,
be able to receive, but to be able to soften more to receive. And
yes.
that's a journey
Yes.
for us all. What do you think, Emma?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Yeah, because it is something I know I chatted with a friend of mine recently about. And again, we are going off at a few tangents here, but sure, look, this is about life, isn't it? It's about important issues, but we're talking about intimacy and, connection. And it's so sad how, I'm single myself and I don't, God, I don't want to be revealing too much here on this podcast myself, but I'm not really out there on the dating scene trying to look for someone because I am very much of that energy as a woman. I am a strong, independent woman, but I also want to be a woman. I want a man to seek after me, and I do believe that that's very much, when a woman is you know, looked after in that way, she can soften and she can be fully herself and fully
Yeah,
feminine. And that is missing in the dating world today, where there's
yeah,
almost an expectation for the women to do it all and to do the chasing as well. And I think the romance and the kind of really, again, nurturing the divine feminine, looking at women as these beautiful beings that they are, and
yeah,
really looking into the beauty that they can give the man actually when they can be softened. It's so sad
yeah.
to me that I feel that's missing in our world. And I think if everyone had a bit more of that, in terms of a connection, of a healthy connection between
Mm,
them, whatever it is, it could be man, a woman and a woman, whatever nowadays, but having that loving connection can, as you know yourself, can be a ripple effect into everything else in terms of conceiving and so on. So, I don't know how we ended up on that tangent, but
yeah,
I
no,
think it's
no,
an important
but that's,
part, isn't
that's,
it?
that's exactly it. Regardless of the gender, that it's just, whatever the question, love's the
Mm,
answer, keeping the hearts open, yeah. And that's a big part to fertility. Couples
mm,
can be going off doing all this testing, busy lives, paying a high mortgage, all that, and it's just, it's the keeping open. And sometimes if we look at people, where there are loads of kids coming in, maybe there are people, the focus isn't as much on the big house or the fancy things. And it's just, being able to be at home more with the kids. And
mm.
sometimes it's creating this analogy and this story before the baby comes down, that it's imagine the baby's looking down, thinks, "Oh, I'd love to come down there. There's always time. My parents will have
Yeah,
time. There's more love. There's this softening, and yeah,
yeah.
so all that's very
Mm,
important. And that's what I see with couples too, whether they're multiple failed IVFs, multiple miscarriages, poor semen analysis. It's all back to the basic principles of opening, softening, trusting, and that can all
yeah.
have a massive impact on the body, yeah, in helping
Yeah, not
fertility.
allowing flow, isn't it, as well, Siobhan?
Exactly,
Because
yeah, that's
forcing
exactly
something, forcing this energy, it's never going to be good. I see this even in my own profession as, a teacher, and I see the young people in front of me. Perhaps their parents hadn't healed whatever it was that they had to heal, and then they're putting that on their children, and then their children are carrying all this anxious energy and this stress. And
exactly.
I actually said it to my students today. I was telling them all about St. Valentine's and the fact that, because it's St. Valentine's Day tomorrow, if anyone's
Yeah,
listening to this
yeah,
podcast later on. But I was telling them the fact is who St. Valentine was, and the fact that his relics are actually in Dublin. They're in an Irish priest was given them as a gift, and they're in Dublin. So I was explaining
go
that. And
on.
then I went on to share with them that of course, it's about romantic love maybe on St. Valentine's Day, but don't forget that every love starts with yourself. And even though these are 11, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, they're obviously starting out in their journey of discovery of themselves. I didn't have anyone say to me when I was that age that self-love was important. And obviously this comes
Yeah,
with experience and time and all the painful things that we go through, and that we come to this conclusion and understanding. But gosh, if I'd only known that loving yourself is the most healing
yeah,
thing that the world
yeah,
needs, because when you love yourself, you're not frustrated by other people, you're not causing issues. And gosh, there's so much that we just were never given the time to really think about. And there's so many distractions stopping us from seeing that. So, I mean, I do breath work myself. I'm a facilitator of breath work, and that in itself brings you back to the body and just getting it to
yeah,
be
great, of
quiet
course.
and to be
Yeah.
still. And like your work there, Siobhan, getting people to go back to themselves and the oneness of themselves. Wow, what a powerful concept,
Mm. No, it's the same as you're saying, Emma. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it is about self-love. And sometimes it sounds so basic and easy, but we can be
Yeah.
the hardest on
Pretty
ourselves
hardest
just to
thing to
love.
do, isn't it?
Hum?
Of all the things, we can love other people, we can accept other people, but to love ourselves,
Yeah.
my goodness. And I know from some of the other guests I've had over the last while, we've talked about these things. And one of my guests, she had done plant medicine, and she had a message given to her that really we're going to be here forever. Our life keeps going. Our soul keeps going into another body. And we're here actually to learn only one thing, and that's to love ourselves. And to love ourselves is to accept all the parts of ourselves, even the
Exactly.
parts we don't like. And my goodness, isn't that hard to do?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's
Mm.
unconditional, isn't it? It's,
Yeah.
yeah, accepting the shadow side. It's, yeah,
Yeah.
it's being
Yeah.
authentic with just
Yeah.
who we are. Yeah. And
Mm.
yeah, it's self-acceptance, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm,
So, Siobhan, we've talked about so much, and I know that there was a lot of focus today on energy, and your energy is beautiful, and hence why I wanted to speak to you. But if you were
yeah.
to kind of sum up one thing from today's conversation that you feel is important for people to hear, what would you say that is?
Um, probably comes back to my principle on oneness.
Mm.
Can I just draw it?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
go for it.
Oh, this is my okay.
I'll
So
pop it
this
up
is
as well
my
on
hmm?
Instagram as well. I'll show
This
people
is
as well.
my
But yeah, I can
oneness
see them.
principle. This is my oneness principle, and in Chinese medicine, I take a little bit from everything. So this is my oneness principle, and in Chinese medicine, they say where our thoughts go, our energy goes, and where our energy goes, our blood goes.
Mm,
So we want our blood and energy to be going in to our organs. So when we're naturally centered and balanced and going with the
mm,
flow of life, we're naturally more at one with ourselves. So for anyone listening to this podcast, I'd advise you, just to center and balance yourself more. See, is my energy going in or is it going out? So imagine the concept you have 100 hertz of energy. Try and preserve 5 hertz for yourself every day. Most people that I see, and I'm my main student, my own was off the Richter
mm.
scale, um, are their energy is more like this. I need to go here. I need to go here. Have I done this? Have I done that? And this is creating inflammation, autoimmune, different symptoms. And my work is whatever your vibration is, that vibration is in every atom, every cell in your body. So it's about really thinking in the now, because all we have is now. Is
Yeah.
my energy going in and am I centered and balanced? Or is my energy going out and am I distracted and busy and um,
Mm.
not at one with myself? So it's going in, keeping centered, keeping balanced, and being at one with ourselves in the now, and all the nows make the future. Yeah.
Wow, I love that.
Emma,
That's amazing, Siobhán. And
makes
wow,
sense.
isn't it in some ways it's hard to do, but how simple it can be. So I think that can give a lot of hope to people listening today, especially if they are struggling. And if people want to know more about what you do, Siobhán, and they want to look into maybe perhaps coming to see you and have a chat with you, what's the best way to find you?
Well, thanks, Emma. I have a website, fertilitytreatment.ie, and
Okay.
but as I say, it's much more than fertility that I do.
Yeah.
And there's my work email on that, and there's a phone number as well. I'm very
Yeah.
happy to talk to people complimentary as well and give tips. So please do reach out. I am here
Yeah.
to help you, regardless of what symptom. My work is my passion, and
Yeah.
so if anyone feels that I can help them, please do reach out. Genuinely, I'd be delighted
Yeah.
to help anyone.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's amazing, and I'll provide all those links as well for people in the summary notes today. But what I want to really finish with, Siobhán, is I know we've had quite a long chat today, but I think it was very
I don't even
worthwhile.
know what time.
So if anybody is still with us, thank you. Thank you for lasting. But what I would say to you is this, I can feel it in you, you are here for a reason. You're providing a life-changing advice and helping people. As I said, I've listened to the testimonials on your page. People's lives have been changed because of you. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. So I want to
Yeah,
thank
thank
you
you.
yeah,
I don't
honestly.
credit of that. I just think people, but thank you. I just believe I'm just a support, and
Yeah.
that maybe I'm bad at receiving too, but I feel people change it within themselves, and I'm just a support. And
Mm,
I honestly
yeah,
don't want to take too much credit. That I'm just blown away daily by people's transformation, and I'd love to
yeah.
share the guy I met 2 days ago because it was
Yeah,
quite.
go for it. Go for it.
Maybe
If anyone's still with us, you're getting bonus material here. Ah,
Actually,
go
I'm
for it. Tell us. This is the juicy bit for the listeners.
the added bonus. I just have his notes here.
Yeah.
I just thought this was like, well, everyone I meet is interesting, but this was
Hmm.
just quite interesting too. I actually put it up on my Instagram post a little bit about it
Mm.
yesterday. But 2 days ago, my client, he was in America, and I met him online, and he had messaged to say he didn't think he could make the appointment. But I said, sure, I'll chat to you for 5 or 10 minutes. He had just come from the hospital, and he was in the hospital 4 hours earlier, queried meningitis. They were about to do a lumbar puncture, and he decided just to withhold for a few hours to see how he went. And severe pain down his head, down his neck, and my curiosity is what's under this pain. And I said, when did the pain start? And he said, well, actually, it started about 6 to 8 weeks ago, very mild, but now it was really severe. And and I said, right, what was happening 6 to 8 weeks ago? And he said that's when they started trying for a baby again. And and I said, right, there's some link, so my thing is, again, the mind is in the blood makes the body fluid. How is subconscious stress causing this symptom? And so I was asking him particular questions. And next thing I got a massive, so first I got him to feel into the pain, um, draw the pain, understand it, and to talk to me then about it. This session went on maybe an hour and a half, and I got a massive shiver down my body when he said the words, are we in a position to support a family with security and finances? And that was his block. I'm absolutely sure linked with this, what they thought was meningitis. And he had come from a really deeply challenging background, a lot of financial challenges in his childhood. And, and I felt nature didn't want his child to carry this financial fear. And so nature was blocking it. And I got another deep shiver down my body that his focus needed to be on, I just have it written down here, things
Mm.
that mean more in life, more important aspects of life. And I actually also got a shiver. He was talking about working with younger generation and younger men. And
Mm.
when he said, when when a person doesn't reach their expectations, that's when they can take their own life. That it's our own expectations rather than trusting life and nature and God. And I got him to draw the vibration, and then I got him to get the deepest, darkest point of the vibration and draw that on another graph. And I think it's okay to share this. And this is what came up. This deep, dark, it was like really sharp. And he said, use the word pressure, and it was all around making money, pressure, and pressure to succeed. And I got nature. The nature of his body didn't want this. The child only wanted his time, his love. He was thinking it's going to cost, he said he quoted 100,000, for this child. Where was he going to get the money from? And I created this meditation. This is a big part of my work, using my unique ways of connecting to the light, the source within him, using his words, and then transforming the energy so that he could transform the darkness back to light. And the following day, he messaged me saying pain was gone, so much better. And after that session, it had transformed. That nature just wanted him to know this message: let the expectation go, let the finances go. Um, and from a semen analysis point of view, this can often be reflected with the semen. If he's stuck in cotton rigid, semen is stuck in cotton rigid. And in that
Mm.
environment, the sperm can't move or be shaped as well. So that can often show in signs as, some abnormalities. So once he's free, then the body's free. So that's an example of how I work. I know today is about the feminine energy, but that's just to
Mm.
show, because men, need this mention too, that a lot of men today, as we were saying, don't know what their role is, and they've all this expectation that they're a good
Mm.
dad if they're the providers financially, but their role as well is to step back, enjoy life, support themselves, and ground themselves into their truth of who they
Yeah.
truly are. This is
Mm,
an incredible guy. He himself, um, wants to be an international speaker and help the younger generation. And I feel this is part of his journey of letting that go. So it was my honestly my privilege supporting him with that. But that's an
mm,
example of my work, of how
yeah.
the body doesn't want us to hold on to, as you were saying, Emma, the control rooted in fear and letting that go and surrendering to our truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Wow,
Tom, that.
what a lesson to end with, isn't it? To just allow whatever needs to happen. Honestly, Siobhán, I mean, from the moment I connected with you to even now, I'm just so blessed, and I really am grateful for you taking the time to share your story with us today. And honestly, we'll have you back again because there's
Thank
lots more
you.
questions I had for you. But I'm going to go down and visit you now in Wexford as well, so you can show me that place you were talking about. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Who knows, when I get a bit more tech savvy,
Emma,
I might be able to take videos.
thanks, Emma. Yeah, for anyone that's listening, Emma's hopefully going to set me up with the podcast. Emma, no, I
Yeah, I'm
just
going to
feel
help her.
we're friends and we're always going to be friends. We're
Honestly,
on the
it's going to
same
be
mission,
amazing.
you know?
Yeah, we are. We
Yeah,
are definitely. We're definitely. And I think with you, Siobhán, yeah, that's true. One of my missions is to help other women and men, but other women set themselves up in terms of sharing their stories, because I've only got the courage to do it in the last probably 6 months, and it still feels scary to me. So we're all just here supporting each other, aren't we? So thank
yeah.
you
Well, Emma,
again, and
thank you.
honestly, blessing.
Yeah, no, yeah, no. Well, I feel honestly, it's a blessing, and I've listened to
Yeah.
two of the podcasts this week. I've only listened to a few in my whole life, so you're
Yeah, yeah.
50% of my podcast, and you natural gift, Emma. For anyone listening to this,
Oh,
Emma, you're actually gifted with this, and you've such honesty,
well,
such a really beautiful energy about you. Yeah, so
thank you
but
so
lovely
much.
to
And I
see
haven't
you.
even
Yeah.
met you yet in person, but yeah, we feel like we
Oh,
know each other.
yeah.
I mean, it's a learning experience. As you said there many times throughout our chat today, it's just about us accepting and also just being authentic, isn't it? And the more authentic we are, the more we call in what we should. So again, let's leave it at that, because I know people are like, okay, how long is this podcast? It's like if people are listening in their car, at least they've got something in the background, but they're going, Jesus, this is a fierce long podcast and listen to here. But anyway, we will chat again soon for sure, because there's lots more we can bring
Yeah.
you back. And maybe when people have listened to this, and again, if they're still with us, if they have any other questions, maybe they will share with me, share with you, and we'll answer them. And as I said, you have an Instagram page and you're going to be more active on that, I know, and I have
Yeah.
one too. But yeah, for now, it's Friday the 13th and it's Valentine's Day tomorrow. But it's been a gorgeous energy and a lovely way for me anyway to finish my week. So you have a lovely evening, and thanks again for chatting with me.
Thank you so much, Emma, and thanks for your time.